First of all, I'd like to thank the National Civic League. I am so honored to be here. And I thought I was coming to inspire you, but you've already inspired me. So thank you all. You all are awesome. Yes. So how many of you have heard the phrase, preaching to the choir? Well, that's what I'm going to be doing this evening, because my message is on community engagement. And who knows better than community engagement than all of you? So I want this, when I'm done, I want to kind of engage you in a conversation, because I think I can learn just as much from all of you as I can share as I talk about the work of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and my hometown of Battle Creek! I have no influence, but I am from Battle Creek. So I want to share with you a story about Battle Creek. And it's the story of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and a man by the name of Will Keith Kellogg. Mr. Kellogg founded the cereal company and created an empire. He was actually one of the most creative and innovative leaders of his time. And the fact that he could determine a distinctive way of advertising cereal made him a world leader, and he amassed a great amount of wealth in the process. But Mr. Kellogg wasn't satisfied with just becoming a wealthy man. He decided that he wanted his money to mean more and do more. So Mr. Kellogg left his entire fortune in the Kellogg Company to the Kellogg Foundation. And he told us, yes. And at the time, it was about $60 million, okay? This was 1930, $60 million. Today, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation is worth over $8 billion. And he told us, do as you please, so long as you promote the health, happiness, and well-being of children. He believed in children. But he also told us that children don't live in a bubble. And what we now know is children live within the context of their families. And families live within the context of their communities. And so as Mr. Kellogg left his fortune, he actually taught us a lesson, not only about children, but about leadership and about communities. And so I'd like to share with you what he left for us and the work that we've been doing for almost 90 years. We will celebrate our 90th anniversary in 2020. And for 90 years, we have based our entire existence on a simple concept that Mr. Kellogg left for us. And he wrote this about 10 years after he created the Kellogg Foundation. And it was actually 11 years, but he wrote in a document, and he said to us, after leading a philanthropy for about 11 years, I have determined that people in communities have the inherent capacity to improve their own lives. And it is only through those people that sustainable change happens in communities. And what this foundation must do is follow the leadership of the people in the community. They're first. We support them. They know what's best for their children, and they will change lives for not only their children, but for the whole of the community. And he actually talked about an approach for community engagement. And again, this is where I get to preach to the choir. He said that it is only through cooperative planning, intelligent study, and group action that lasting change happens in communities on behalf of the whole. So let me break that down a little bit. Cooperative planning. What Mr. Kellogg said is, if there's an issue in a community, who do you look to understand that issue, to solve that issue? Is the community. You bring people together from multiple perspectives, different sectors. He said in his writings, the physician, the teacher, the child, the doctor, you bring them all together, you put them around a table, you let them know one another, you let them build a relationship, and they will address the issue. And then he said that cooperative planning process should be infused by intelligent study. So some people think intelligent study means research. You know, go and find the information, the academic sources, et cetera, and that's part of it. But he also said intelligent study is studying from those most impacted, listening to those who know the issue firsthand, understanding and gaining empathy for their perspective, their point of view, and taking that knowledge and that intelligent study and collectively take action. One thing Mr. Kellogg did not like was a lot of talk and no action. Who agrees with that? This isn't about just the problem description. It's the problem solution and it's the action. And what Mr. Kellogg said is if you take the work and you approach it this way, that the action will be action for all. Because by the time you've gone through this process of cooperative planning, intelligent study, you've built a bond. You know one another. You're not coming to a space where you've been separated, where you don't have space to learn from one another in dialogue. But once you've done that, he said that the group action will serve all, and the result will be sustained because you will have created the solution, and you then own that solution, and you will ensure, as the good, great leaders that you are, that those transformative changes for the better will last. And so that's how the W.K. Kellogg Foundation does our work, no matter where we work. We go all over the nation and the world, and the first things we look for is, where are the people? Where is the engagement? How are they working together? How might we help them work together? How might we partner in a way where they are constantly moving forward toward action on behalf of the whole? Cooperative planning, intelligent study, group action. So now let me break that down one level deeper. And again, talk about what we've learned over the 90 years of our work. But what we now understand, that communities require three things. Three things in order to truly serve all the people in communities. And I'm going to read you some definitions, because these are definitions that we have created in our work over these very many decades. But the first thing that communities need is engagement. True, authentic engagement. Not can you come to a meeting on Tuesday so we can kind of ask you a question and then you disappear and we can now go ahead and solve your issues for you. No, that's not engagement. It's a very deep, authentic process. And the way that we've defined it, we say community engagement is the process of working collaboratively with communities to address issues they identify as priorities. One of the things we learned at the Kellogg Foundation is just because we walk into a place with a big pocket of money, we don't get to have the last word. And I'll give you an example of that. In New Orleans is one of our priority places. And after Katrina, we wanted to stay in New Orleans. We put an office in New Orleans, and we determined we are going to be committed to this place for at least a generation because the children of New Orleans need us. And we walked in and we talked about, well, we fund education. And you know what they told us? In New Orleans, you're going to fund trauma because our children have experienced trauma. And if you're not going to deal with that adverse childhood experience, we're never going to get to education. We changed our programming, and we fund trauma. And so what we say is when communities drive how problems are defined, how decisions are made, and how solutions are created, then meaningful and enduring change is possible. The second thing that every community needs is racial equity. Every child needs to live in a family where their families have equitable opportunities to thrive. Every family. And so when we talk about racial equity, what we mean by that, we say it's an aspirational pursuit, insisting that all people, regardless of their racial ethnic group identification, skin color, or physical traits, will have equal opportunity to experience well-being in a just society. But we know that achieving racial equity means that an individual's identity would not be predicative of their day-to-day experience of life outcomes. And racial equity for us is a two-strand approach. It focuses on systems transformation. And what we mean by that is looking at the systems that unfortunately have been embedded with racial biases and transforming those systems so they work for everyone. So that's a structural piece of racial equity. The second part that we believe is just as critical is what we call racial healing. Because we believe that healing is at the heart of racial equity. You don't get to equity as a community unless you've healed, unless you've come together in that cooperative space and learned how to be with one another. And deeply be with one another and learn our common humanity. And that's how we move forward. So healing, as you have heard, she talked about the work that we do around our truth, racial healing, and transformation effort. And this is work that we are doing. Is anyone here? You know, we talked about Texas. Dallas, Texas is one of our truth, racial healing, and transformation places. So is Battle Creek. But in these places, we are supporting diverse, multi-sectoral, cooperative planning processes where people come together and say, we're going to address this issue in our community, and we are going to transform the structures so that they work for all. And these places, they're struggling. You know, this isn't easy work. They're working hard, but they're making the transformation because they're committed to making a difference. So that's what we mean by racial equity and racial healing. And finally, communities need leadership. Leadership that has an understanding of some of these other principles that I've just discussed. But for us, we say the only way to advance equity is to have leadership that's driven by those directly impacted by systemic racism and oppression, and that they will lead to meaningful and enduring change in communities. Our leaders emerge from our communities, and when they do, they have unparalleled expertise and experience. They can identify the gaps and the needs in the community and how their children are educated, how public and private resources and opportunities are distributed, how their families and communities are made healthy and whole and safe, and how success is defined and measured. And that's key, because we can't prescribe for them what success looks like. They know what makes them feel whole, and we have to adjust to their reality. But that's leadership, someone who's agile enough to understand that and to be humble and in service of the process and of the vision for what's possible in a community. And so, as I said, as I started, I'm preaching to the choir, because you all wouldn't be here if you didn't get this and know this. So, sorry for the repetition. But I just want to say, the applause goes to all of you, because every last one of you and every last one of your communities have already won. So I'd like to be the first to say congratulations to all of you from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. Yes, you all are champions. You all are heroes. You are committed to building equitable, thriving communities, and you know that that's what every child deserves. A child deserves a chance to live in a place surrounded by people of all ages and life experiences who are rooting for their success. And just like we are all rooting for the children, I want you all to know that I am rooting for your success. Congratulations, and no matter the outcome on Sunday, keep doing the work that you're doing. I know it's great to get that recognition, but recognize each other and lift up one another and keep this work going. Congratulations, And I'm going to be here tomorrow listening to all the phenomenal stories so I can learn and take it back to my foundation. Thank you.